Thank you guys so much because you won't believe who reached out to me for today's sponsor. It's in fact Samsung. Just kidding, it's still nobody. Imagine if I was sponsored by Samsung though. You should subscribe. But in front of me, I have possibly one of the greatest smartphones to have ever graced human history. God literally came down to Samsung and said the Ultra lineup is going to be the best smartphones that humans are capable of. I'm not kidding. The S22 Ultra is by far my favorite smartphone. And we have the new and improved version here with us today. So let's go ahead and get this unboxed. So we always got to give credit where credit is due on this channel. And surprisingly, this isn't made in the hometown of Seoul, but in Vietnam. And surprisingly, if you look at where the actual device was made, it's also Vietnam. People always ask, why do I care so much about where products are made? But as you can see, in terms of smartphones and electronics, so the next 10 minutes of me explaining this is pretty boring, but the point I was trying to make is that it's interesting that companies are diversifying where their products being made outside of China and spreading places to like India, Vietnam, and countries like those. So that's why I care so much about where products are made. Back to the video. The beauty of the S23 Ultra. Oh my God, Samsung? Let me go ahead and take this plastic off, or should I say piece of paper, because you're trying to be carbon neutral by 2030. Whoo! Whoo! Is this what we're doing, Samsung? Hey, listen, I know I have an iPhone, but I gotta give credit to Samsung. This is obviously, this one has fingerprints on it, but oh my God, the black. All right, enough. Let's get this thing open up here. We're gonna take off the top. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ah, Samsung. Now we have to give it a quick, ooh, I already like the feel of this better, but let's give a quick smell test to the new S23 Ultra. Smells like honey and milk for some reason. Milk and honey. Yep. Samsung, I don't know. This is so much better than the S22. You guys, okay, once again, this isn't a comparison video, but look at this. They listened. Samsung, thank you for listening to the people. Thank you to all the manufacturers that are listening to the people that are giving you money to make better products. Want to know why? These guys finally made the edges more flat. I complained about this in my S23 unboxing, how I love the S22, but the flat or the rounded edges really make it not the best. But now that they've flattened it on the S23, I mean, come on, Samsung. You're teasing me at this point. What? This phone can do no wrong. Look at that. While I'm talking about it, it just wants to welcome me. How? Oh my. So we still have the S Pen that comes with the Ultra lineup. I believe they started doing this with the S21. They made it compatible now. I believe it comes standard with the S22 and above, S22 Ultra and above. And the pen, if you are like a power user, trust me, you will make use of this pen. So showing you around the device here, like I said before, we have the S Pen, USB-C, and I'm gonna open up the SIM card tray because this isn't something that I typically do, but I'm just curious about the Ultra lineup. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe for US residents, we only get a SIM card tray. We don't get any dual SIM, which kind of sucks, but if I'm wrong, someone please let me know. For the international crowd, we have our 5G antenna band here. We have the lock button, so if I just click it, locks the device, unlocks it. You guys know how that works. And then we have the volume up and down. Then on the top, pretty clean. Other side, clean. Let me stop. I'm gonna compliment this device too much, but look at the way this phone looks in my hand. So my device has pretty much transferred. It's just installing all my apps. As you can see here, there are apps on apps on apps. You'll see that this is gonna keep on moving down because apps are still installing. But now it's time to move over to the balance test. So let's see how this device feels when I throw it in the air. If this sounds like a weird test, I know. This is something that's just personally important to me when I buy a smartphone. I can already tell that since it has flat edges, it's gonna be a pretty balanced phone. So let's do a couple tests here, and as you can see, pretty balanced. That one was a little wobbly, less wobbly than last year. But yeah, in terms of spinning it in my hand as well, definitely feels, it's a big device, so it's kind of hard to spin it naturally in my hand. But overall, in terms of the balance test, would I give it an A+? Probably not. But it is much more balanced than last year's. I don't want to throw last year's because this one really sucks throwing in the air. I always feel a little scared whenever I have to catch it because there's just so much wobble on this thing. The S23 Ultra, it's definitely more balanced. And even if I like throw it straight up vertically like this, that's where the wobble comes in. That's something that's just happens with big devices. But overall, balance test, pretty good. So let's go ahead and do the display and speaker test. All right, so before I show you guys this test, we are cranked up to the max brightness, and we also have the screen resolution set to the max on 1440. So I'm going to make sure that this is set to 4K and let you guys enjoy the speakers and the display for a bit. A little bit more quiet, please. Ultra. What can I say for this? Do you guys not hear the water underneath the path that this person is walking on? It sounds so crisp. Like I'm physically there with the display here too. Listen. Listen. Okay, he moved from where he was, but you guys get what I was saying. But Ultra territory, Samsung, the king of displays on mobile devices. This does not disappoint. Always, on a serious note, it really does impress me on Samsung's displays for their smartphone devices that they are really sharp, very vivid, very rich in color. And on top of that, I really don't want to come off as like a Samsung shill, but it's really hard for me to give you guys how good of a display this is until you use it for a bit and then you go to something else. You will seriously realize that this display, when you watch content on it, is probably one of the best experiences next to the Fold, obviously, but this is definitely one of the best displays. And the speakers as well, you guys heard clear. I know there was a lot of stuff going on in Indonesia with, you know, the whole traffic situation, the motorcycles. But when that guy was walking on the path, I'm telling you, clear. Like I said, I don't want to be like this super fanboy of Samsung because I'm not. I own a lot of Apple products, but I'm not joking with you guys when I tell you, when it comes to smartphones, the S series lineup for Samsung is my favorite as of the past 3 years. It really is one of the best experiences on a smartphone device. But with that out the way, let's move over to the camera department because we do have a supposedly 200 megapixel camera. Let me make sure that this is clear. I need this thing looking sharp. All right, so we're gonna start off with the back camera, and I understand. This is a good looking person with the messed up hairline, but focus on the quality of the photo. I'm telling you, I say this every time in an Ultra unboxing, but this is probably one of the best photos I've ever taken of myself. I mean, seriously, guys. And like I said, I'm not a Samsung fanboy, but this is seriously one of the best photos I've ever seen. This looks real, more real than real life. Does that even make sense? This looks more real than real life. That's crazy. That's crazy. Now let's move over to 200 megapixel and see how that looks like. So this is with the back camera. And as you can see here, it looks good. I would say it doesn't look as good as the portrait mode. But the thing you have to keep in mind with, I don't know why I keep doing this. The thing you have to keep in mind with higher megapixels is that when you zoom in, you retain a lot of that detail. So look, when I zoom in here, this is still pretty legible. You guys want to see something crazy? Look at the hair on my chin. Look how detailed that is. You're not touching this iPhone. You just aren't. You can see the ridges in my lips. Look at that chappedness, the crackedness. You can see up my nose. You can see all the... This is Illuminati. Samsung is looking at me. Is that what my iris looks like? I'm getting distracted, but regardless, as you guys can tell, from the 200 megapixel camera, Samsung isn't messing around. But seriously, if you want to utilize this camera to the fullest, and if you're taking like a pretty big shot, this is where the 200 megapixel camera is gonna come in clutch. Now let's move over to the front cameras. Honestly, not as bad. I would say this is definitely passable if you're just trying to get something. Definitely do some post-processing. Looks a little bit like a white cast is over me for some reason. Not as good as the back cameras. God, this photo looks amazing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to test out the video on the back camera of this S23 Ultra. All right, so this is the video and microphone test on the S23 Ultra. You guys can tell me how it looks and sounds. My hand is shaking because it is really hard to hold this phone up with one arm because it is a tad bit on the heavy side because it is a Ultra device. But there is stabilization, so you guys can tell me if it looks pretty stable in the video you guys are watching now. But the one thing I do want to mention for Samsung devices and videos is that for some reason there always seems to be this random white cast that happens whenever I record on their videos. I don't know if it's because of my complexion. If it is, Samsung, that's racist. You fix it right now. It's my month and I do not want any discrimination. But with that aside, I would say the video department on Samsung is pretty good. It goes all the way up to 8K 30. I would say for most people, just shoot on 4K 30. You're gonna get way more benefit using that instead. But yeah, that's the video test. Let me know how it sounds and looks. All right, so this is the S23 Ultra, and I did not talk about any specs at all. So this does have the Snapdragon something something Gen 2 for Galaxy. Honestly, I don't really care about the processor and what it's called anymore, simply because it's better than last year, and that's all I really care about as a consumer. You can name this thing Snapdragon Turtle, and I would still think it's better than the Snapdragon. I'm so stupid. Anyway, point I'm trying to make is this has a faster processor than last generation, of course. Yeah, I really don't know what else is that much of improvement from last generation. Now, I apologize if this isn't the most technical unboxing and mini review of the S23 Ultra. I'm just more so excited as a consumer to have this in hand and just get a first time experience, first impressions. But overall, it pretty much feels identical in terms of usability as the S22. The only main difference is that the edges are flat on the new one. Cameras are better, battery is bigger, better processor as well. But like I said before, we've pretty much hit a plateau on the flagship territory in smartphones because everything is pretty much like minimal upgrades that we're getting. I think what smartphone manufacturers need to focus on moving forward is how can you make the experience better? Not so much throwing specs, because I think they clearly noticed that we can only go so far on what we can do on a smartphone. But how do you make the OS a better experience for the user? That's what I'm looking forward to when I use a Samsung device or Android device in general. I have a pleasant experience compared to what I had 3-4 years ago. So keep it up, Samsung, with your One UI. Really do appreciate you guys not sponsoring me. There's no bad blood, but if you want to reach out, please let me know down in the comments below because you are a viewer as well. So if you guys want my firsthand experience of switching over to the S23 Ultra and my honest thoughts on it, please let me know down in the comments below. I will also be doing a comparison video between the S22 Ultra and the S23 Ultra. Give you guys some thoughts on that. But overall, as a new flagship king, I am happy with the S23 Ultra. First impressions. Appreciate every single sub, like, and comment. And as always, guys, much love. I'm putting my SIM card in this right now.